Welcome back to Cooking with Jill. I'm Jill, and today we're making one of my all-time favorite foods, which is the Crunchwrap Supreme. I love Crunchwrap Supremes. I think they're very good, equally good at 2 a.m., 2 p.m., 12 p.m., 9 a.m. I've had them at all those different times. I think that they're great regardless. So first, I've already got my seasonings in the bowl, and I'm just going to tell you what I did. So I did a 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, a teaspoon of coriander, a 1.5 teaspoons of cumin, a 1.5 teaspoons of onion salts, and 2 teaspoons of chili powder. And now I'm just going to go ahead and mix it up. Now, if you don't want to use your hand, you don't have to use your hand. I just think it's kind of the easiest way to sort of incorporate it all. After we mix it, we're just going to let it sit while we kind of prep the cheese and everything else, and that'll give it just a little time to marinate. If you were short on time, this doesn't really have to be marinated. It just sort of gives it an extra oomph. And you don't want to like work it too hard. Like this is probably good. Okay, so we'll just let that be. Wash our hands. So I don't have a grater. John brought me his grater. And so a little wish list idea is I would love my own grater, but I specifically want it with one of these cup things at the bottom because, you know, when you grate, things just go everywhere and this keeps it nice and contained. And this one even has measurements. So now we're going to get started with our cheese. We're going to be using this kind of cheese, which I'm not fully sure how to pronounce. But it's a Mexican cheese, and we're going to be using Velveeta. I wanted to buy cubed Velveeta, or like the log, so I could just cube it easily, but I couldn't find it, so we're just going to unwrap 12 Velveeta slices. We're doing 8 ounces. I should have said this is going to be enough for like 4 crunch wraps, maybe more. But what's kind of cool anyway is you're sort of just making a nacho cheese with all of this, and you could put that on like as its own dip, or you could do... What's that called when they do like the poblano peppers? What is that called? Queso fundido. You could do a queso fundido with poblano peppers and chorizo if you want to get super fancy. Velveeta, I know it's really processed, but it's just the best cheese for melting. There's no getting around that. Okay. All right, great. So now we're just gonna take this block of Velveeta and cube it. We're all going to melt all this down later, so it doesn't really have to be perfect. Next, we're going to do this cheese. So this one, this is 10 ounces, and I want equal parts, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. Okay, it's not totally perfectly not messy, but that's okay. Want some snacking cheese? I would say this cheese is like closest to a mozzarella, so if you couldn't find this cheese, you could just use mozzarella. And that would be also delicious. Okay, that seems like enough. Maybe oh no. Okay, cheese explosion. We're gonna start making our cheese sauce. So I've constructed another double boiler. If you saw in my last video, a double boiler, you can buy them, but it's sort of one of those appliances that, unless I guess you baked or something a lot, you wouldn't really use a lot. But it's essentially just a couple inches of water boiling, and then you put a heat-proof bowl on top of it, and the bowl isn't supposed to touch the water, but the steam from the water heats up the bowl, and it's sort of a nice way of evenly melting something together, and as opposed to just putting it in the microwave, which can work in a pinch, but you don't really get the same emulsification. I don't know if that's a word. We're going to be melting both of our cheeses together, so first we'll put in all that delicious white cheese we grated. And then we're going to add in this delicious Velveeta. And then we're also going to add in a 1/3 cup whole milk. And you'll kind of use the whole milk to determine how thick or thin you want your cheese sauce. If you want it thinner, you can add more milk. And if you want it thicker, you can just add less. Okay, and now we're also going to cook our meat simultaneously because I just think that makes the most sense. We'll add a little bit of vegetable oil. Damn, I wish I had 2 wooden spoons. Wooden spoons are like one of the best kitchen tools, and I'm going to need the wooden spoon to break up the meat. So I'm going to switch this one to my silicone spoon, which is still a good spoon, but it doesn't really have like the sturdiness behind it to like break up meat. We're going to start breaking this up. Obviously, this is going to be like essentially our taco meat, so you want it to be pretty crumbly. Okay, so we're going to let these all get a little bit of a head start, and we will start looking to prep our other ingredients. So for the cheese sauce, I eventually want to put some jalapeno in it. I just think that would be like really good. So what makes a jalapeno spicy are the seeds. So if you wanted like the taste of a jalapeno but not as spicy, you can just remove the seeds. But then if you do that, make sure that you don't touch your face, your eyes, or like, you know what I mean? Now, check in on our beef here. That looks pretty good. Let's check in over here. I'm also gonna add some pepper to this, and I'm gonna add pepper in here. I'm gonna hit this with like a tiny bit of salt, but really just tiny because we already put all that onion salt in there, and I just don't think it needs that much more. So you want to just kind of continue to crumble it up. All right, cool. And so you see there's like a lot of liquid coming out from that meat, and we're going to want to thicken that eventually, because if you think of the Taco Bell Crunchwrap, the meat kind of has a maybe mysteriously thickened texture to it, which I like. You know, it's kind of one of those things where you can't think about it for too long. You can't really think about anything at Taco Bell for too long. It's sort of a mindless activity getting Taco Bell. To thicken the meat, we're going to make a cornstarch slurry. So cornstarch is like flour in the sense that it's a thickening agent. So you often use it a lot in like baking. A half cup of water. And by making the slurry, it's just going to help incorporate the cornstarch in a smooth and fluid way where you don't end up having like chunks of powdered cornstarch. So yes, like this is looking good, but you can see all the liquid. So we're going to add the cornstarch slurry. And it's going to look like a lot of liquid at first because we just added an extra cup of liquid, or half a cup. But we're going to let all this boil together and we'll see how it becomes thicker. And the thing with cornstarch too is to activate it, you have to stir it for a little bit. So if you were making a pie, a cream-based pie, there's actually a whole time when you have to stir something for like 10, 15 minutes, sometimes longer, because that's the only way the agents start binding. So you can already see it's getting a lot thicker. I've always wanted to be ambidextrous. I think I'm going to add some more milk to that. A touch. I know, all of a sudden it transformed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. Now I'm going to add jalapeno in it. Let's try it. It is really good. I think I could use a little like pepper though. Now this has been going for a couple minutes, and so look, you can see it got a lot thicker. Oops. Oh shit. There's still kind of a good amount of oil and stuff there, but we'll just use a slotted spoon when we're getting it out. Okay, so now all that's left is just to get everything else ready that we're going to need to actually assemble the Crunchwraps. Obviously need a tomato. Now, for tomatoes, I don't know if you guys know this, but the correct kind of knife for a tomato is a serrated knife. And a lot of people think it's, you know, like a chef's knife like this, but the serrated knife is actually what gets you better through the skin of the tomato without making a huge mess. I recently saw this TikTok about how dirty lettuce is, and it's actually really making me want to get a salad spinner. So we don't need that much of this, you know, so we're just going to do. Okay, so now we have to begin like actually assembling the Crunchwraps. So first we have to prep tortillas. So if you were gonna make two Crunchwraps, you'd need 4 tortillas. So you need to double the amount of tortillas you have like to Crunchwrap. It should be 2 tortillas to 1 Crunchwrap ratio. Okay, and then you're gonna use tostada. You could also use like 6 tortilla chips, or I've also heard that people use Dorito chips, which I could also see being a really good idea. Now that I'm saying it, I kind of wish I did that. But anyway, so you're going to place your tostada in the middle of your first half of tortillas, and you're going to try to get an even circle around the tostada. And the idea is you want to cut out like the tortilla piece in the same size as the tostada eventually. Or not eventually, right now. So we got, like, these are good enough. Like, they're not perfect, but that's pretty good. And this, I mean, don't waste these. You could cut them up and make them into chips, or you could make some, like, weird wrap or something. Like, you could wear it. I don't know. But, like, don't waste it. Do you know the layer?
No.
Okay, hold on. Ground beef, cheese, sour tostada, sour cream, lettuce, tomato, more cheese, flour. Let's assemble. So we have our main, like, 10-inch flour tortilla, and now we're going to scoop on some of our meat. Now you want to leave, like, a decently generous border across, because eventually we're going to have to kind of pleat all of this together. Next, we're going to add some cheese sauce, tostada, then some sour cream, lettuce, tomato, tortilla, and now we're gonna, to pleat it, we're gonna fold up one side, and then it's pretty easy. You just sort of like like grab it at the corners. Oh shit. Oh no. Right after I said it was easy. Okay, you know what?
Perfect.
That was so crazy easy. All right, we're gonna replete. Okay, great. Just a little oil in the pan. And then we'll flip it in a few minutes. All right, and now we'll just flip it and see what it looks like. Whoa! Actually looks really good. Wow. Gorgeous little Crunchwrap Supreme. Now we'll try it. It's pretty hot. That's really good. I think that's one of the best things I've ever made. Oh my god. It's so good. Thanks for joining. If you make them, tag me. And yeah, happy weekend. If it's a weekend when this comes out. Wow, they're actually really good.
Oh my god.
Here.
Looks so good.